Hello everybody, this is Gregory with 5-Minute Catholic Apologetics, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today we're going to talk about Ephesians. Now before we begin, let's start with a prayer. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancti. Amen. Gloria Patri et Filii et Spiritui Sancto, secutor in principio et nunc et semper et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. Ephesians. What do we know about Ephesians? Well, it's about 6 chapters long. It starts slow and gets really good at the end, like a movie. Who wrote it? Paul, it's always been attributed to Paul. It's mentioned in the epistle that he wrote it. But up until about the 16th century, we all believed that. But around that time, there was some disputed scholarship that said that maybe it wasn't Paul who wrote it, that it was maybe a disciple of Paul who wrote it later. We really don't know. One of the arguments is that the style in the epistle is different. But Paul, was a great writer. He was a Roman citizen. He was a Pharisee. It could have been him. When was it written? He mentions that he wrote it in captivity. He mentions it actually in the epistle. And we know if you trace it to Acts, the very end of Acts of the Apostles, he's sent to Rome. And we know that's around 62 AD. So he probably wrote it around that time. At the same time, he wrote Colossians and some of the other captivity epistles. We think it's meant for the Ephesians. Now, there's some dispute whether or not he added in Ephesus later on. So it's either actually written for the Ephesians. Ephesus is a large city in Asia Minor where John and Mary lived until Mary ended her days. You can actually go to their house over there. So it's either written for the actual town or it was meant to be like a circular letter or a letter that just went around to the early Christian communities during that time. What's the purpose of Ephesians? So unlike, let's say, 1st, 2nd Corinthians and Galatians that we've already covered that are putting out fires, whether it be like false teachers or Judaizers, Ephesians is more kind of laid back. It's a circular letter. And the first 3-4 chapters are really kind of more catechetical in that they're helping the new converts kind of understand the faith. In particular, I would say it's kind of understand that the mystery of Christ is the mystery of his church. And one of the great things about Ephesians is that you get the 4 marks of the church kind of listed out there. 1, holy, Catholic, and apostolic. Each of those you can find kind of fleshed out there. But I think just for a lay person, like reading Ephesians is kind of dull until you get to the 4th chapter, and then it just kicks butt. So if you start with rules for a new life, which is Ephesians 4, Verse 25, it talks about how you shouldn't let anger control you, how you shouldn't let the sun go down on you and be angry. It talks about how you need to never slander and so forth. And then chapter 5 is great because chapter 5 says you need to stay away from pagan things, stay away from drunkenness, stay away from immorality. Nobody who's immoral inherits the kingdom of heaven. And then the later half of 5 talks about, it's probably one of the most famous sections on marriage. So you definitely should read that part. It kind of explains how Christ is the head of the church is his bride, and as such, husbands have domain over their wives should be subedient. It's a very, very kind of famous phrase. And then you look at chapter 6, telling kids to be obedient to their parents. And then the very end, of course, is going to be the spiritual warfare part. So Ephesians 6 is the armor of God, put on the armor of God and all those things. And it's just so beautifully written. And it's a reminder of spiritual warfare, that we're fighting against principalities and so forth. And that we need to always be vigilant, always be praying, and always be worried about false prophets. We have a false prophet video here. And that we always have to be ready to proclaim the faith and protect our souls from false prophets and from the devil who's always prowling, like we say in the prayer of St. Michael. So we definitely got this under 5 minutes. So Ephesians, it's a nice little read. Pastorally, it really kicks butt in the last 3 chapters, so check it out. Guys, post in the comments. Let me know what you think of Ephesians. What did I miss? What did I not miss? Please hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Share with like-minded people. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.